Imagine discovering that your soulmate is closer than you have ever believed, so close that only a single invisible step separates the two of you. Not years, not impossible circumstances, not fate working against you, just one hidden barrier that neither your eyes nor your conscious mind has fully recognized. Now ask yourself this: what if the greatest obstacle between you and the love you've been waiting for isn't another person, but a part of yourself you've never truly met? Have you ever felt as though love keeps slipping through your fingers just when it seems within reach? Have you noticed the same emotional patterns repeating, the same disappointments returning, and the same unanswered questions echoing in your mind? If so, this is not a coincidence. There is often an unseen force quietly shaping your relationships, influencing your choices, and determining who you allow into your life without you even realizing it. Today's message may challenge everything you thought you knew about soulmates. It may reveal why you've been searching in the wrong direction, why waiting alone has never been enough, and why the answer you've been looking for has been hidden within you all along. Stay with me until the very end, because the final insight could completely change the way you understand love, yourself, and the extraordinary connection that may already be finding its way toward you. Many people spend years believing that the reason they have not met their soulmate is something happening outside of themselves. They blame distance, bad timing, unlucky circumstances, or the choices of other people. They convince themselves that if they lived in another city, had a different career, looked more attractive, or simply waited a little longer, everything would finally fall into place. While external circumstances certainly shape our experiences, there is often a much quieter force at work, one that remains hidden beneath conscious awareness. This unseen force is the collection of emotional patterns, beliefs, and fears that silently influence how we perceive love, how we respond to intimacy, and even whom we allow ourselves to notice. It is like walking through life while wearing invisible lenses. You believe you are seeing reality exactly as it is, but in truth, every experience is being filtered through old emotional memories that were formed long before your soulmate ever entered your life. These inner filters do not announce themselves. They rarely speak in obvious words. Instead, they appear as hesitation when someone genuinely cares for you, as distrust when love feels too easy, or as the constant feeling that something is missing even when opportunities for connection are right in front of you. This hidden block does not exist to punish you. It was often created as a form of protection. Perhaps at some point in your life, disappointment taught you to expect loss. Maybe rejection convinced you that opening your heart was dangerous. Over time, your mind learned to protect itself by becoming cautious, skeptical, or emotionally distant. The remarkable thing about this process is that it becomes automatic. You no longer consciously choose these reactions because they have become part of your identity. You tell yourself, "This is just who I am," without realizing that you are describing a defense mechanism rather than your true nature. Imagine standing before a beautiful garden separated only by a glass wall. From a distance, the garden appears completely accessible. You can see every flower, hear the birds, and feel the warmth of the sunlight beyond it. Yet every attempt to reach it ends with your hands pressing against invisible glass. That is how hidden emotional barriers often work. Love may already be moving toward you. Your soulmate may even be closer than you imagine. Opportunities for genuine connection may appear repeatedly, but something unseen prevents the relationship from unfolding naturally. The painful part is that because the barrier is invisible, you often blame everything except the real cause. You question fate, timing, or even your worth, while the true obstacle quietly remains untouched. The journey toward meaningful love therefore begins not by searching farther away, but by becoming curious about the unseen parts of yourself. Every emotional reaction, recurring relationship pattern, and deeply rooted belief offers a clue to what has been operating beneath the surface all along. When these hidden influences gradually come into awareness, they lose much of their power, allowing you to respond to love with openness instead of unconscious protection. One of the greatest paradoxes of the human heart is that a person can deeply desire love while unconsciously fearing it at the very same time. On the surface, someone may pray for a soulmate, imagine a lasting relationship, and feel lonely when no meaningful connection appears. Yet beneath those conscious desires, another part of the mind may quietly resist everything that true intimacy requires. This hidden resistance is rarely obvious because it disguises itself as logic, high standards, caution, or simply waiting for the right moment. In reality, it is often fear wearing a convincing mask. The fear of being rejected, misunderstood, abandoned, betrayed, or emotionally exposed can become so deeply rooted that it begins shaping every decision without the person even realizing it. They believe they are protecting themselves, but they are also preventing themselves from experiencing the very love they long for. Fear has an extraordinary ability to create invisible distance between two people who might otherwise be drawn together. Someone may meet a kind and emotionally available person, yet instead of feeling safe, they feel uncertain. They begin searching for flaws, questioning every word, or assuming that kindness cannot possibly be genuine. A delayed reply becomes proof that interest is fading. A small misunderstanding becomes evidence that the relationship is destined to fail. These reactions are rarely caused by the present moment alone. They are echoes of older emotional experiences that have never fully released their influence. The mind naturally tries to predict the future by using memories from the past, believing that avoiding vulnerability is the safest strategy. Unfortunately, this protective instinct often keeps the heart trapped in isolation, rather than guiding it toward genuine connection. There is also a quieter fear that many people never acknowledge, the fear of being truly seen. Authentic love asks us to remove the masks we have carefully built over the years. It invites honesty about our imperfections, insecurities, dreams, and emotional needs. For someone who has spent years hiding behind strength, independence, humor, or emotional distance, this level of openness can feel deeply uncomfortable. Remaining guarded seems easier than risking disappointment. Yet the walls built to keep pain out also prevent love from fully entering. The same barrier that protects the heart from heartbreak can unintentionally protect it from joy, trust, and emotional closeness. Another hidden fear is the fear of change itself. Real love transforms people. It challenges old habits, priorities, and beliefs about who they are. A lasting relationship requires compromise, growth, responsibility, and emotional maturity. Even when these changes are positive, the unknown can feel unsettling. The familiar pain of loneliness may feel safer than the unfamiliar experience of deep, emotional intimacy. The human mind often prefers what it already understands, even if it causes suffering, because certainty feels more comfortable than uncertainty. These fears do not mean someone is incapable of love or destined to remain alone. They simply reveal that different parts of the inner world are moving in opposite directions. One part reaches forward with hope, while another quietly pulls backward with caution. This inner conflict can delay meaningful connections, create repeated relationship patterns, or cause opportunities for genuine love to pass unnoticed. Recognizing that this struggle exists is often the first step toward understanding why love sometimes feels so close, yet remains just beyond reach. Have you ever wondered why the same type of relationship seems to appear again and again, even though the faces, places, and circumstances are completely different? At first, it feels like coincidence. You tell yourself that you were simply unlucky, or that you happened to meet another person who behaved in a familiar way. Yet after enough repetitions, a deeper question begins to emerge. Why do the same emotional stories keep unfolding? Why does the excitement always seem to end in the same disappointment? Why do the same misunderstandings, the same feelings of rejection, or the same struggles with trust continue to return? The answer often lies not in the people you meet, but in the unconscious patterns you carry within yourself. Until these patterns are recognized, life has a remarkable way of presenting them repeatedly, almost as though it is inviting you to notice something you have overlooked. Every significant emotional experience leaves an imprint on the mind. Moments of love, loss, betrayal, acceptance, criticism, or abandonment shape the beliefs we quietly develop about ourselves and about relationships. These beliefs are rarely formed through careful reasoning. They emerge from emotional experiences, especially those that occurred during vulnerable periods of life. A single painful event can gradually become a hidden rule that influences future choices. Someone who once felt unwanted may begin believing they must constantly prove their worth. Another person who experienced betrayal may assume that trust always leads to heartbreak. These beliefs become so familiar that they no longer feel like opinions. They feel like facts. Without realizing it, people begin making decisions that reinforce these inner convictions, choosing familiar emotional experiences, even when those experiences cause suffering. This is why the same relationship dynamics often repeat themselves. A person who fears abandonment may unknowingly become overly attached, seeking constant reassurance until the relationship becomes strained. Someone who believes love must always be difficult may feel strangely drawn to emotionally unavailable partners while overlooking those who offer stability and genuine care. Another person may repeatedly avoid emotional closeness altogether, convincing themselves that independence is their greatest strength, while secretly longing for deep connection. Each decision seems reasonable in the moment, yet together they create a cycle that feels impossible to escape. The pattern continues because the underlying emotional lesson has not yet been understood. These recurring experiences are not signs that life is working against you. They are reflections of unfinished inner work seeking your attention. Every repeated disappointment carries a quiet invitation to look beneath the surface rather than focusing only on external circumstances. Instead of asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" a more revealing question becomes, "What belief or fear keeps drawing me into the same experience?" This shift changes the focus from blaming fate to exploring the hidden forces shaping your choices. It transforms repeated pain into an opportunity for greater self-awareness. Many people hope that meeting the right soulmate will automatically erase these patterns, but meaningful relationships rarely remove inner wounds on their own. Instead, they often illuminate them more clearly than ever before. Genuine love has a way of exposing hidden fears, unresolved emotions, and long-forgotten beliefs, because intimacy naturally brings the deepest parts of the self into the light. When those patterns are finally recognized with honesty instead of denial, the cycle begins to weaken, creating space for healthier choices, deeper trust, and relationships that no longer repeat the emotional stories of the past. It is easy to imagine that you are the only one waiting, questioning, and growing while your soulmate is somewhere far away, living an entirely separate life. Yet meaningful connections are rarely one-sided journeys. If two lives are truly meant to meet in a way that brings lasting transformation, both individuals often move through their own seasons of growth before that meeting becomes possible. While you are learning lessons about trust, self-worth, forgiveness, or emotional resilience, the other person may be facing challenges that are shaping them in equally important ways. Their journey may look completely different from yours, but it can be preparing them for the same destination. Growth is not always visible. Some people evolve through heartbreak that teaches them not to take love for granted. Others learn through loneliness, discovering the value of emotional honesty after years of hiding behind pride or fear. Someone else may be overcoming old disappointments, releasing unhealthy attachments, or finding the courage to let go of relationships that no longer reflect who they are becoming. These experiences may seem unrelated on the surface, yet each one can quietly reshape the heart, making space for a healthier and more authentic connection in the future. Many people become discouraged because they believe that if love has not appeared yet, nothing meaningful is happening. In reality, preparation often takes place long before two people meet. Character is being refined, emotional wounds are slowly healing, priorities are changing, and perspectives are expanding. The qualities needed to sustain a deep relationship, patience, compassion, maturity, accountability, and genuine understanding, are usually developed through life's ordinary struggles rather than through the relationship itself. This also explains why timing can feel so mysterious. Two people may cross paths briefly, but not be ready for each other. One may still be carrying unresolved emotional burdens, while the other is still discovering who they truly are. Their lives continue on separate paths, each gathering experiences that gradually transform them. What once would have become a relationship filled with confusion and instability may later become one built on clarity and mutual respect, because both individuals have changed from the inside. It is also important to remember that growth is rarely a straight path. There are moments of progress followed by setbacks, confidence followed by doubt, hope followed by uncertainty. These fluctuations are part of becoming emotionally mature. They teach humility, patience, and self-awareness in ways that constant comfort never could. If your soulmate is also walking through such a season, they may be confronting fears and limitations that are invisible to you, but deeply significant in their own life. When two people eventually meet after sincere inner growth, they are often able to recognize qualities in each other that they would have overlooked in an earlier stage of life. The connection feels less like an accident and more like the natural meeting of two individuals who have been quietly shaped by experiences that prepared them to value, understand, and support one another with greater depth and authenticity. One of the most powerful changes a person can experience begins with a simple act of noticing. Most people move through life reacting automatically to situations, emotions, and relationships without stopping to ask why they feel or behave the way they do. They assume that every thought they have is true, every emotional reaction is justified, and every relationship outcome is purely the result of external circumstances. Yet many of these responses are guided by unconscious patterns that have been operating quietly for years. The moment you begin observing these patterns instead of being controlled by them, something remarkable starts to happen. Awareness creates a small but meaningful distance between you and your automatic reactions, giving you the freedom to choose a different response. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every day for so long that you no longer notice its weight. You simply believe that walking through life is supposed to feel exhausting. Then one day, someone points out that the burden on your shoulders is not a permanent part of Wennen. It is something you have been carrying. In that instant, your experience changes. The backpack may still be there, but now you know it exists, and because you know it exists, you can begin deciding what belongs inside it and what no longer serves you. Emotional patterns work in much the same way. Fear, self-doubt, resentment, insecurity, or the need for constant approval often become so familiar that they feel like personality traits rather than learned habits. Self-awareness allows you to recognize the hidden beliefs shaping your relationships. Perhaps you notice that you withdraw whenever someone gets emotionally close because closeness feels unfamiliar. Maybe you discover that you constantly seek reassurance because a part of you quietly fears being abandoned. You might realize that you expect disappointment before giving people the chance to prove otherwise. These discoveries are not reasons to judge yourself, they are opportunities to understand yourself with greater honesty and compassion. What remains unconscious tends to control your decisions, but what becomes conscious can be examined, questioned, and gradually transformed. This process also changes the way you view other people. Instead of immediately assuming someone's actions define your worth, you begin recognizing that everyone carries their own fears, expectations, and emotional history. This perspective encourages patience instead of impulsive judgment, and curiosity instead of defensiveness. Relationships become less about winning approval and more about creating genuine understanding. As awareness grows, the invisible walls that once shaped every interaction begin to lose their strength. Old emotional habits no longer dictate every choice because they are no longer hidden. Instead of repeating familiar cycles, you respond with greater intention, emotional balance, and authenticity. The person you present to the world becomes increasingly aligned with who you truly are rather than with the fears and defenses you developed in the past, allowing future relationships to be built on openness, trust, and a deeper sense of emotional freedom. Many people believe that finding a soulmate is mainly about searching harder, waiting longer, or hoping that the right person will suddenly appear. While opportunity and timing certainly play a role, lasting relationships are often shaped by something much deeper: inner alignment. This means that your thoughts, emotions, values, and daily actions begin moving in the same direction instead of pulling against one another. When these parts of your inner world are in conflict, life can become confusing. You may say you want a loving relationship, yet continue holding beliefs that you are unworthy of love. You may long for honesty while hiding your true feelings. You may dream of emotional closeness while keeping everyone at a safe distance. These contradictions create an invisible tension that influences the way you approach every connection. Inner alignment begins when you honestly examine whether your actions reflect the life you hope to create. If you desire trust, are you becoming someone who is willing to trust wisely? If you hope for kindness, are you treating yourself and others with genuine compassion? If you seek emotional stability, are you developing habits that support peace rather than constant emotional turmoil? These questions are not about achieving perfection. They are about reducing the gap between your deepest values and the choices you make each day. The smaller that gap becomes, the more authentic your relationships naturally become. This alignment also changes the energy you bring into conversations and relationships. Instead of seeking someone to complete what feels missing inside you, you begin sharing your life from a place of greater emotional balance. Your confidence becomes quieter and more genuine because it is no longer dependent on constant validation from others. You become less focused on convincing people to stay and more interested in discovering whether the connection is healthy, respectful, and mutually supportive. This shift creates stronger boundaries, clearer communication, and a greater sense of self-respect. Another important part of alignment is accepting that love cannot thrive where there is constant inner conflict. If one part of you believes happiness is possible, while another part insists that disappointment is inevitable, every relationship will feel like a struggle between hope and fear. By recognizing these conflicting beliefs and gradually replacing them with healthier perspectives, your decisions become more consistent. You stop sending mixed emotional signals to yourself and to others. Instead, your words, intentions, and actions begin reflecting the same deeper truth. As this inner harmony grows, relationships stop feeling like endless pursuits driven by anxiety or uncertainty. You become more present, more emotionally available, and more capable of recognizing genuine compatibility rather than chasing temporary excitement. Love is no longer approached as something that must rescue you from loneliness or prove your car's worth. It becomes a natural extension of the person you have become, a connection built on authenticity, mutual respect, emotional maturity, and the quiet confidence that comes from living in alignment with your true self. As we come to the end of this journey, remember one powerful truth: the greatest distance between you and your soulmate may not be measured in miles. It may be measured by the hidden fears, beliefs, and emotional patterns that still remain unseen. The moment you begin understanding yourself with honesty, you begin removing the invisible barriers that have shaped your relationships for years. Every step toward self-awareness is also a step toward the love you seek. Growth is rarely easy, but every lesson, every challenge, and every moment of reflection prepares your heart for a deeper and more meaningful connection. Trust that genuine love is built not only by finding the right person, but also by becoming the real person who is ready to receive and nurture that love. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me today. If this message touched your heart, inspired you, or gave you a new perspective, be sure to like this video, share it with someone who may need these words, and subscribe for more inspiring journeys into self-discovery and meaningful relationships. I wish you clarity, inner peace, emotional growth, and a future filled with authentic love. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep growing, and may your path lead you exactly where your heart is meant to be.